Range in nested loop. In this session, we are going to talk about the range in the nested loop. How we can use the range for the nested loop here. So let me show you some examples. Example number 6. For x in range of 4 and for y in range of 2, take the print of x comma y. When run it, you'll get this output. Look, it is a nested loop. We put a loop inside another loop. This is the outer loop, this is the inner loop. So we put one loop inside another, one loop inside another. Therefore, we call it nested loop. I'm sure you already know about the nested loop. If you don't know, just go back and check the section for the nested loop. First, learn what is nested loop. Then you will understand it here. We have used nested loop here for the range. So for x in range of 4 and then for y in range of 2. So for the outer loop, the range is up to 4. For the inner loop, the range is up to 2. This outer left side is because of the outer loop. This inner side, this right side, is because of the inner loop. So since we have single argument here and single argument here, therefore these are the range functions with the single arguments. We already know that single arguments by default starts from 0. By default it starts from 0. So first the outer loop activates. This for loop iterates for the x. What is x? X are the individual items of the range. So first the for loop iterates for the x in range of 4. So by default it starts from the 0. And then we know that we have a nested loop. This inner loop depends on the outer loop. Once the outer loop activates, then the inner loop activates. So first the outer loop activates for the first item, it gives 0 here, and then the inner loop activates, which is y. It will check y in the range of 2. It will also give the first value with the 0, because by default, if you pass a single argument for the range function, by default it will give the first value 0. So it will 0 here. Then the for loop will activate for the second time. So the second new value will be 1. So the range of 2 will be 0 and 1. So we have total two items for the inner loop, 0 and 1. 2 is not included. Make sure 2 is not included because it starts from 0 and 1. These are the two items, two elements. So range of 2 means two elements which starts from 0. Now for the second iteration, the outer loop is the same, which is 0. From 0 up to 1, it iterates 2 times. So once the iteration finishes for all the items of the inner loop, then the outer loop again activates. So since the inner loop finishes here for the 1, now the for loop, the outer for loop will activate one more time. So it will give a new value which is 1. Once the outer loop activates, then the inner loop will activate again. So it will iterate first for the first item which is 0, and then at the same time it will iterate again for the second time to give the second value which is 1. The outer loop remains as it is. Once all the iteration finishes for all the items of the inner loop, which are total 2, 0 and 1, then again for the third time the outer loop will activate. It will activate for the third time to give the next new value which is 2 here. Then the inner loop will activate. So it first iterates for the first value which is 1, and then for the second time for the second value which is 1. Since it finishes here, therefore again the outer for loop will activate for the fourth time to give the fourth new value which is 3 here. Then the inner loop again activates. It iterates for the first value which is 0, and then for the second value which is 1. So there it finishes. Now for the outer loop we have the range of 4. So by default it starts from 0 if we have a single argument for the range function. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have total 4 items. Look, the second one is just a repetition. This one is just a repetition. 2 is just a repetition. 3 is just a repetition. It counts only once. From 0 up to 3 we have total 4 items because range is 4. For the inner loop we have total 2 arguments, so we will have only 2 items for the inner loop. It repeats again and again. 1, 2, 1 2 1 2. So we have total 1 2 items. 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. It just repeats. We have total 2 items for the inner loop and 4 items for the outer loop. So it is because of the nested loop. Because of the nested loop, we got this kind of output. By taking the print of x, y, these are the x values which are for the outer loop. This is for the outer loop for x in range of 4. These are the y values, which are for the inner loop, for the range of 2. So there you got the output for the range in the nested loop. Let me take again the same example here, but this time what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the print of x, y inside the parentheses. So when you run it, you will get all those values inside the parentheses. Since we put parentheses here, print of x, y inside the parentheses, therefore all the output values will be inside the parentheses. Formatted string. Let me take again the same example number 6. We will try formatted string here. So we will have for x in range of 4, for y in range of 2, print of f quotes inside the parentheses with the x in the curly brackets, comma y with the curly brackets. When you run it, you will get the same output. Look, it is exactly the same example. X in the range of 4, y in the range of 2. But this time I have used a formatted string. If you remember last time we had only print of x, comma y. But now we have f. What is f? F is for the formatted string. F is formatted string. So f and then colon and then parentheses and then x inside the curly brackets, comma y inside the curly brackets. Don't forget, the time when you use the formatted string, you have to put curly brackets for the x and y with a comma. So when you run it, you will get exactly the same output inside the parentheses. So this parenthesis is because of this parenthesis. That's how we can get the same output with the formatted string. It is a formatted string.